2019 made me sit and reflect on my greatest achievements and my biggest regrets. The times I went right when I should've went left, and how moves that were made didn't get the desired effects. Cause life a living lesson, but how quick we forget. You gon' wish you wouldn't have played with life, can't rewind or reset. Complacency plus time equals regret, so reflect. Cause that time that you neglect affects that future you expect.
We're about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy.
And how moves that were made didn't get the desired effects. Cause life a living lesson, but how quick we forget.
Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping got limited media attention. Describing their talks, Putin said, "We are in favor of using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America." So, the world's second largest economy and its largest energy exporter are together actively trying to dent the dollar's dominance as the anchor of the international financial system. Will they succeed?
Seeing how artificial intelligence is being used and weaponized. As I'm sitting here and I'm seeing how cashless society is already here. We're already microchipped. That's what people don't understand. It's just you don't have a microchip in your skin, but the vast majority of people barely transact with physical, tangible assets, and that's exactly what they want. Back in the day, you actually bought a physical CD. Now you buy a license through Spotify. You don't own anything and you'll be happy. Everything that they've told you, none of this should shock you, is coming to reality. But I want you to look past the United States versus Russia. I want you to look past Ukraine versus this. No. This is merely the same thing that has happened with the food industry. They're consolidating money, they're consolidating debt, they're consolidating banks, they're consolidating so that at the end of the day, there's only one entity that will rule with an iron fist.
The times I went right when I should have went left, and how moves that were made didn't get the desired effects. Cause life a living lesson, but how quick we forget. You gon' wish you wouldn't have played with life, can't rewind or reset. Complacency plus time equals regret, so reflect, cause that time that you neglect affects that.
The Chinese last month unveiled the world's first digital currency from a major power. Currency that would not be printed, but would exist only in cyberspace on your phone, for example. Is the Fed working on a digital dollar?
We are actually evaluating that. Most major countries are now looking at the possibility of having a digital currency and really asking the question.
Imagine a government that creates money that has an expiration date, and if you don't use it, it'll disappear. That's happening already with the digital yuan, and Americans are rightfully skeptical.
President Biden issued an executive order to explore the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, effectively converting the dollar into a centralized digital currency.
The Federal Reserve just announced that it's about to show us its new digital payment system this year in July. This is having a huge ripple effect across the entire internet because the US dollar is in the process of being replaced by a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC. In fact, most countries around the world are creating their own right now.
What if I told you 90%?
Additional banking. You can go to a grocery store and buy a few items with your hard-earned money, and then you present your Fed card with a trusty Federal Reserve representative, and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, you're too fat, so you can't buy any of these things." The end.
Yeah, so that's not at all how it works. Here's how it actually works. This new payment system will make it so that businesses and people will be able to send and receive instant payments 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and that's because funds will settle between banks in real time and will only just take seconds. Here's a couple examples of how this will be used in practice. Let's say you're a coffee shop owner and you needed a quick delivery of some coffee beans. Once you got a request of payment from your supplier, you would pay through a participating bank like your credit union, and the coffee bean supplier would instantly receive your payment. On the back end of things, your credit union would send an ISO 20022, which is a digital form to the FedNow service, which would validate it and send a message to the coffee beans bank. That receiving bank would then confirm in real time that it could receive the payment, and the FedNow service would then debit and credit the money and then send a message to both banks that the settlement was completed. Now that whole process, which sounds insanely complicated, would happen pretty much instantaneously. But the system we have right now just takes a lot more banks, time, and a lot more money. And this service will eventually apply for things like bill pay and for sending money from one account to another. This will be super helpful if, for example, you have a utility bill that's due on that same day and you want to pay it right away without paying late penalty fees. Now, eventually the Fed will want us to use it for peer-to-peer transactions so we can send money to each other in the same way that we use Venmo or Apple Pay. For now, though, this service will only be made available to people within the United States, so you won't be able to send money instantaneously overseas. Now, this will be rolled out in phases starting in July, but already in the first week of April, they're giving out formal certifications for their, quote, participants. So that is the FedNow payment system, which is tied to the CBDC, the central bank digital currency.
Revelation 13:16 through 17 says, "And he called us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." So a system is going to come at some point in time that's going to have one world economy. And the best way to develop some sort of a world economy is by consolidating debt, by consolidating banks, by consolidating the economy, and at some point in time going full digital. Once upon a time, if you went to the supermarket and you went to the cereal aisle, you probably had, in reality, 10, 20, 30 different cereal companies selling you cereal. But now when you go to the grocery store, in reality, most of what you buy is made by 2 or 3 companies. Some people would call it a monopoly. Others simply would call it what it really is, a consolidation of who feeds you, a consolidation of who banks you, a consolidation of who lends to you, a consolidation of who pays your bills, a consolidation of world government.
Time it goes regret, so reflect, cause that time that you neglect affects that future you expect. Look.